Hey, Haley. Okay, so let's see if we can figure out kind of what's going on here, because as I understand, you left Hanover right when you were talking about Space Cat. So I am sending this handout home for you. This is what I gave my kids at the beginning of the year for writing the body paragraphs. And so we are going to use this to kind of work through this together. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to scroll down to this prompt that is here. This would be like a prompt that you would receive on the test. One of the things that you were confused about is Space Cat. So the reality is that Space Cat is just an acronym to try to pull out the important information from the prompt and things that you should be talking about as you go through your rhetorical analysis paper. So all it is, right, is thinking about what can we figure out about our speaker? Who is it? What are their credentials? What are their qualifications? What are their values? That kind of thing. Because those are things that we could talk about as we write their commentary in our paper. The next one is purpose. So why do we think the author is delivering this speech or writing this letter? I always think about it as what does the author want the audience to think, feel, believe, or do? Okay, speaking of audience, it's always important to understand who the speaker is talking to, because if you think about it, you are going to change the way that you say things. You're going to change the examples that you use. You're going to change all kinds of things like that, the word choice that you use based on who you are talking to. So it's important that we start to understand who the audience is. Are they students like Frederick Douglass and some politicians? In which case you would definitely want to target some certain areas and also be really inspiring. Or is it a letter to a son, in which case you probably would be more direct, but also very loving. So knowing who your audience is important. Audience is important. Context is understanding what the year is, what's going on societally at the time, that kind of thing. And then we have exigence, and exigence is what is that spark? What is the actual reason that they are writing it? When we are thinking about the cat part of Space Cat, along obviously with the purpose, we need to actually read the piece to get these out of it. The C stands for choices, and that's just throughout the piece as we read what choices is the author making to convey their message. So are they comparing and contrasting? Are they using vivid imagery? Are they juxtaposing ideas? Are they repeating things? Are they using really condemnatory diction? Those are the choices. The appeals relate to ethos, logos, and pathos. And then T is tone. So we always want to be able to figure out what their tone is and if it shifts, okay? So that's just kind of, as you're doing this for like your timed test, these are things that are happening and we're going to mark them up, but they're not things that you need to like do a full Space Cat chart for all the time. You're not going to have time for that when you are writing your essay in 40 minutes, okay? So you just kind of need to be able to like start internalizing these things, jot some notes down to yourself. But here's what I do when I'm looking at my prompt. So here's our prompt from the 2015 exam. On the 10th anniversary of the assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., labor union organizer and civil rights leader Cesar Chavez published an article in the magazine of a religious organization devoted to helping those in need. Read the following excerpt from the article carefully, then in a well-written essay, analyze the rhetorical choices Chavez makes to develop his argument about nonviolent resistance. So I'm pretty sure we know what we're doing here. We're looking for our title, author, genre. Well, we don't have a title, but we do have a genre and an author, right? So we have, first of all, I just see article here. So I'm going to mark that with a G, and it's also in the magazine for genre. I'm going to mark down my author, who is Cesar Chavez, and I'm also going to mark this idea that he is a labor union organizer and a civil rights leader. When I think about context, well, context is important. This is the 10th anniversary of the assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. That is what is going on in society around us at the time. And if we know when Dr. Martin Luther King was assassinated. That is something that obviously we could put in there too. I know that he was assassinated in 1968, therefore that this article is going to, or excuse me, article is going to be 1978. The other thing I want to mark is my audience. Okay, so it is a magazine of a religious organization. This is important because if I am writing to a religious audience, think about the things that I might include. Probably some religious rhetoric, okay? Think about the shared values between the author and the audience, the things that they would think were important in life. The last thing is I'm going to form that command and conquer. So it says, analyze the rhetorical choices Chavez makes to develop his argument about nonviolent resistance. Right, that's my command. It wants me to analyze the choices. Then I'm going within there and I'm going to find my conquer question. So I'm finding my infinitive phrase to develop and using the text from the end. And my conquer questions becomes, what is his argument about nonviolent resistance? Okay, now it's time for me to read. As I am reading through my text, I am going to be annotating, writing down as many verbs as I possibly can to show what Chavez is doing, right? Because those are going to turn into my rhetorical choices that I list in my thesis, and then also that I write about in my body paragraphs. So he says, Dr. King's entire life was an example of power that nonviolence brings to bear in the real world. It is an example that inspired much of the philosophy and strategy of the farm workers movement. This observance of Dr. King's death gives us the best possible opportunity to recall the principles with which our struggle has grown and matured. Our conviction is that human life is a very special possession given by God to man, and that no one has the right to take it for any reason or any cause, however just it may be. We are also convinced that nonviolence is more powerful than violence. Nonviolence supports you if you have a just and moral cause. Nonviolence provides the opportunity to stay on the offense, and that is of crucial importance to win in any contest. If we resort to violence, then one of two things will happen. Either the violence will be escalated and there will be many injuries and perhaps death on both sides, or there will be total demoralization of the workers. So a couple things that I'm seeing right here that I'm going to notate is that I'm just going to put references Dr. King's teachings. Remember, this is about nonviolent resistance. Right here, I figured that he refers to God. And then later I'm going to think about why he does this. I could put that he compares the power of nonviolence to violence. And this definitely down here, he sets up this cause and effect. If this happens, then this happens. Nonviolence has the opposite effect. So this is continuing this comparison. If for every violent act committed against us, we respond with nonviolence, we attract people's support. We can gather the support of millions who have a conscience and would rather see a nonviolent resolution to problems. We are convinced that when people are faced with a direct appeal from the poor struggling nonviolently against great odds, they will react positively. The American people and people everywhere still yearn for justice. It is to that yearning that we appeal. Okay, so we're thinking here, one of the things that I can figure out or note right away is how often he is using the word we. So one of the things that I'm going to think about is how he groups himself and the audience together as one. I could use unifies maybe. Okay, so this is what I'm doing. As I'm going through and I'm reading, I am analyzing for rhetorical choices. So I'm not going to go through the entire thing with you, but you can see where I'm going with this in the rest of this handout. This is going to turn into my thesis statement, which is up here. In his article, there's my genre, for the religious magazine, Cesar Chavez, a labor rights activist, so there's my information about my author, exemplifies a civil rights icon. I already did that one, right? I'm referring to Martin Luther King. I'm just going and choosing a different rhetorical verb. Contrast the outcomes of violence with nonviolence. I have that one. And then offers an empowering solution. So I didn't finish reading it, so we didn't get that one yet. But in order to highlight that, whatever is coming here is his message, right? That answer to the command question. What does he think about nonviolence? Well, although individuals may find violence a momentarily effective method for change, nonviolent protest is more powerful and morally superior. Then I need to show how it is going to affect the audience, ultimately moving the magazine readers to what does he want the purpose to be? What does he want them to think, feel, believe, or do? Well, he wants them to embrace nonviolent tactics or support the cause. So here is where we have that message, and here is where we have that purpose. Okay? So what is next is figuring out then how we are going to move from that, from that to our body paragraphs. So here in your handout, I have this structure for you. Your first body paragraph's topic sentence is going to first give an ordering word. Where does it happen? So in the beginning of his article, Cesar Chavez, what is the first rhetorical strategy that you said? And this is almost the most important part. It has to connect to, in order to, and then the message or the purpose. So what I need to ask myself is, his first strategy is he exemplifies a civil rights icon. Does he do that? Does exemplifying a civil rights icon, does talking about Martin Luther King Jr. help people understand that nonviolent protest is more powerful and morally superior? Or is it going to push his audience to support nonviolent protest? That's what I'm asking. So I am saying Chavez begins, ordering word, by exemplifying an American civil rights hero in order to highlight the power of nonviolent tactics. That is connecting to my message. Okay. Now that I have that, I need to provide my evidence. So I'm going to use an evidence word. For instance, right? Or I could say, take, for example. But I need to show my evidence next. Take, for example, before he defines the principles of his movement, Chavez reminds his audience that Dr. King's entire life serves as an example of the power that nonviolence can be in the real world. That is my evidence. Fantastic. Now I need to show how this evidence actually proves this. Okay, so by doing that, I am going to look for what are my most important words within my evidence. If these words were important enough to show up as evidence, then they should be in my commentary somewhere. We are connecting the words and the phrases to nonviolent action, so nonviolent action must be in there. One of the easiest ways or best ways to do this is to consider using these 5 words. Okay, so in my first sentence after my evidence, and I'm down here now in my commentary, I have my topic sentence, I have my evidence sentence, I'm going back to my rhetorical strategy here. Acknowledging King is another way of saying exemplifying a civil rights hero, right? Oh my goodness, words are hard. Acknowledging King, what does it do? Showcases the power of nonviolence. Well, why? Because most Americans at the time have heard of the pacifistic civil rights demonstrations he led throughout the country that were consistently capable of producing change. So I'm not done yet, right? I need to still show how it's moving it. Now I'm moving to since. Since people prefer tactics that work rather than ones that just make you toil and futility, they might be drawn to consider what makes King so successful in the real world. And I want you to note that I pulled out specific words there. Now I'm going to give myself a thus if or a therefore. If Dr. King were able to create such an important change, then it would only make sense that the audience embrace nonviolence so that there could be change here as well. Okay, so I added a little bit more, and then if you like really can get a beefy paragraph, you're going to go into a further more and explain. What I really want you to focus on, though, is how is this affecting the audience, or how does it actually move the audience, right? Who is the audience in this case? Why would the things that he is saying move the audience to embrace these tactics? Why would it move them? How would it move them to understand the power of it? So read through the rest of this packet. Now, keep in mind that I'm an English teacher and mine is really wordy. Okay, so yours might not be that long, but this is the stuff that you're looking for when you're looking for those body paragraphs. The packet also has a lot of other examples in it, so feel free to read through that. If you need more, if you want more kind of student examples of things that your peers have written, let me know and I can get that for you. But this is what I want you to do as you're going through the rest of that rhetorical blitz. You are not necessarily writing on the scientific research prompt. The second prompt from Lord Chesterfield, you are writing your thesis and your topic sentences, and it's not till the next prompt on pink flamingos that I want you to write a full paragraph. Okay? Give it a go and let me know what help you need.